The tricks of the CIA agency against USA citizens and the world. This video is about the CIA agency's tricks used against USA citizens and the world. It will be a thriller and a surprise for USA citizens and the world. This video is about the CIA's COINTELPRO destructive operations in the USA. Do not forget to like and share this video and subscribe to our social media platforms. We have over 1,000 videos.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. This is Clifton Raheem Bradley of the Underground Railroad Podcast. And today, you know what? I do not know what happened to my guests. Don't know what's going on with my computer because I am doing a show talking about the CIA and the operations and the ops that they do within the United States of America. You know, very interesting to me. It was very, very interesting to me. And I was talking to somebody about it. He said, man, think about what happened with Eric Snowden. What happened with Eric Snowden? I said, oh. And I said to myself, you know what? This might make an interesting show. You know what? It is my computer. I have another computer. My computer is updating. And you know what? It's updating. And you know what? I must confess that it's never taken this long for my computer to update. But you know, I'm one that believes in conspiracies anyway. And what us believing in conspiracies, my guests have not even showed up. And you know what's interesting about it? I invited 3 people. And probably say, what is wrong with you? You know what? Some people just don't believe in conspiracy. Don't believe in it. They don't believe in it. But I am one that believes in conspiracies. And like I said, I'm waiting on my guests to come in. And interesting that J. Edgar Hoover was notorious for watching people, just watching. You had many people under surveillance. And I think that was an illegal act. That's what I believe it was. I perceive that it was a legal act. And it is something. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
How you doing, my sister? You know
I'm doing well.
You know what's interesting is, man, the computer that I usually use now is updating. But you know when you're talking about subject matters of this nature, I mean, this is Miss Dahlia. Please introduce yourself, please.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Dalia Tapia. I'm actually the producer and host of Latina Spirit, Espiritu Latina, which comes out on channel 21 at Chicago Access Network, as well as basically online. If you link to their website, you can see it every Monday at 8 p.m. and on Mondays at 11:30 p.m. The show has a variety of topics, and I'm glad to be here. I really I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak on this topic because I'm actually, I would say, a victim of some of these secret groups. Mm-hmm. As we know, FBI, CIA, Mossad, all from different parts of the world, different countries have these secret groups, which are actually not necessarily to protect humanity, but rather to benefit a few, which harms humanity and society. So thank you for inviting me.
You know what, you're always welcome to come on. And you know what, for people that don't know, sometimes, because I like to know how things work behind the scenes, she's the host of the Underground Railroad television show. And I'm happy. I'm happy to take the subordinate role because there's much to be learned in the back, not just being. And then my ego is not as such where I say, "Oh, I can't let her host my show. I can't do it." You know what? Because I know I'm going to get exactly what Allah wants me to have, and whatever Allah doesn't want me to have, I can't receive it anyway. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to play a video, and you know what? Let me set this up for the people that are just tuning in. We're talking about the CIA and CIA operations, and I'm going to play a video. Okay, and I will have the link up to that video in their description, since I'm using that content. And I'm going to try. If I make a little mistake, I'm learning.
The counterintelligence program, which targeted many civil rights groups, such as the Black Panthers and the American Indian Movement, and activists like Stokely Carmichael and Malcolm X for more than a decade. The purpose was to, quote, expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, and otherwise neutralize the possible threats against the existing order. The program was exposed in 1971 when a group.
So you know what, Miss Tappy, I would like to ask you, first of all, what do you think about the CIA and the operations that they're conducting on U.S. citizens?
Yeah.
And the COINTEL program? We know that there were organizations like the Black Panthers, the Nation of Islam, okay, and the NAACP. They indoctrinated people to learn about their ways and how they conducted themselves to spy on their organizations, because they felt these organizations were a threat to the United States of America. Can you elaborate on what do you think about the CIA?
Well, first of all, I believe that it has to do a lot with racism, with ideologies, and obviously for them it becomes an issue of like spying on people and practicing without the American people, without the people of the United States of America giving consent for them to practice different experiments. I mean, from subliminals on our medias, which I am in the industry of media productions, and I came across that by mistake, how they function and how they implement them and how they put them. Now, I don't know if you got to see the video of the reporter Canva. What's her name? My mind just blanked out. The one I sent you prior, as far as them utilizing Hollywood to actually pretty much control the masses, control the people in the United States and other countries as well. So as far as I'm concerned, this is unethical, and practices is not for the safety of the people, and it has done a lot of damage to humanity, because what they've done very well is put us against each other. Whether it's by color, whether it's for religions reasons, whether it is for so many different things. And then also, I noticed the comment that was put on the here as far as the CIA dumping crack. Exactly. So what they've done is that they've utilized different strategies to control different people in different ways, and not only in the United States of America, but in other countries as well. In other countries, they've done it through religion, and it is very sad to see. It took for me to leave the United States of America to go and live in another country to understand the damage that these organizations, and not only the CIA, I'm talking about secret agencies, that we should have transparency of what kind of activities they're doing, you know, as far as our population. Why should they be secretly holding and doing these experiments without our consent? and doing all these different things, for example. And I know we disagree on immigration. However, one thing I do know for a fact of traveling in different countries, and I know you were in the military too, but one of the things that I experienced when I was traveling through those countries is the fact that our country, United States of America, through these secret groups, through these organizations, would go and pretty much remove governments and infiltrate in those governments to only benefit a few. And even, for example, we have there is Cotton, the senator. He was in Iraq, and you could see him in a picture like with the gold that they were stealing from Iraq. Now you tell me, how is that okay? In Libya, they did the same thing, but instead they went Omar Gaddafi, because what was he trying to do? He was trying to empower his people in the region. There's nothing wrong to empower people in the regions, because that becomes like a stabilizing a balance. Right now, what we have is not balance. What we have is our country utilizing our tax money, our hard work, to benefit only a few. And again, what did they get rid of Gaddafi? Is because he was actually going to do a currency for Africa. Now, how does that affect us Americans? It doesn't affect us. What affects us is that it benefits a few who went in there and destabilized that country and that region, and on purpose, so that only a few benefit. Look at the situation here. I have parents of my students being evicted, not able to pay for their rents. How on earth are we, United States of American citizens, accepting this? And I'm talking about no matter color, religion, or background. I have a young lady who's struggling. I'm serious. She's living on soups just because, and she's Caucasian. And I'm talking about across the country, in rural areas as well as in the cities. And
when you finish, I got to read this in the chat room. Go ahead.
Say what?
When you finish, I have to read this in the chat room.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. I was just completing that thought.
No, it's okay. It says, what's that from P. Wells? He said, remember the CIA dumped tons of crack and heroin into foundations of Black American, in the Black American community all over the United States of America. This should be looked at as chemical warfare. What is your opinion about that?
Of course. And not only like a warfare. In other words, because they are empowered with having the right to spy on humans, and I'm saying not only in the people here in the United States, but in other countries. I mean, when we talk about these drugs, I tell you, those drugs don't come in without the government of the United States of America not knowing. They know about it. And we have the worst drug dealers right there in our Congress, in the White House. And what happens is that basically they are giving the right, but secretly they're doing all these things. In the meantime, the people of the United States of America are struggling. And it's true. That is the case of what they did. They actually went, and let me also mention many of the weapons that you see in Latin America and in Africa, in many countries of the world. Where do they come from? Here, United States. And who benefits? And last week I had a guest on my show, and he was like, well, there's nothing wrong with benefiting out of wars. Okay, so what on earth are we doing with the next generations, with the humanity? So although I understand the concept of making money, but at what cost? At the cost of destroying humanity? Is that what we're doing here? Because it's not right. Humanity, I mean, how many more years do I have? I don't know, 40, 50, 60, I don't know. But what I am worried is about the next generations, and we have not dealt with the racism in the United States of America, even to this day. And, even to this day, after all of these, and even President Obama, I mean, there were so many opportunities, but what do? Secretly, they blackmail leaders who start with good intentions. I believe most of the leaders start with good intentions, and then things start breaking apart because of greed, because they're set up in such a way that they might be taped doing in a very very inappropriate things. And as one of the Christian priests mentioned, is like, you have, our politicians are scum. Just so what? So Mossad can get them on tapes of having sex with little girls, little boys, so that we, the American people, suffer. Come on, it's time for people to start realizing that there's something that we need to do. Put aside our differences and address the real problems here. And the real problems are we're being spied on, and we're being put against each other, and humanity is at risk because even Trump, I'm talking like, does he have common sense to say, hey, we're this is World War III? How about talking about, we'll go ahead and start addressing the problems, the roots of it. It's like, why do we think as a country that we have the right to go into all these other countries? And like the comment that was posted here, as far as the crack being put into African American communities, that is very true, and it is very well known. But yet, what has been done about that? No accountability, no change, because to this day we still have what they've done is like, we'll bring some people from here, from there, and it's still the problem is still there in our community.
There was a hearing at Congressman Maxine Waters, who was a congresswoman, Black African American congresswoman. She brought that to the attention that the government and the CIA is bringing drugs into the community, and they shut her down. They just shut her down so bad, because they have the power to hurt your family and things like that. And she just stopped talking about it. And I don't know if you're familiar with what Maxine Waters.
I'm not too familiar with her, but one of the things that I want to mention here is the fact, for example, the president of Mexico brought it to the attention of President Trump. The fact that the problem is not the drugs, is the demand, the use of the drugs here in the United States of America. Why is that the problem? Because if there's no demand, there is no product. Anyone knows if there is no demand, there's no product. Furthermore, you have the guns in Mexico. Mexico does not make guns. Mexico does not produce guns. Where do they come from? Those guns come from the United States of America into the cartels, into the people over there. So you have a problem, and yet you don't want to really speak the truth, because the truth hurts. Nobody wants to say, hey, I need to address and work on myself. We're always good at pointing and saying, oh, that person, or that person. But we're not good at saying, hey, look, what is my problem? And this is the problem of our country. I feel that we are very emotionally hurt, psychologically. There's so much damage mentally. I was explaining to one young lady, mental health. And it's interesting because many of us, including myself, we've experienced domestic violence within our, when we were brought up or however, and that has an impact on humanity and on our societies. And I told her, it doesn't matter the color, honey. I said, no, it doesn't only happen in Black communities. It's also happening in Latino communities and in white communities. And the same thing is happening. And so what are we doing to help humans or help citizens here to address those mental health issues? What are we doing? We're removing right away any help. That's what happens. And instead, what are we doing? Stuffing them with video games, with drugs, with alcohol, with all these different things that are self-destructive.
I'd like for you to address this issue. President Trump has said that, he's put tariffs on Canada starting April the 1st of year 2025, and Mexico, because they're saying there's drugs coming in, plus it's illegal immigrants coming in. I would like to ask you, he has been so forceful about fentanyl coming into the country. Why is it he's not as fierce and furious about the syndicate, people that are distributing drugs in the community, that they be held and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law? I'm talking about the syndicate. Why?
Yeah, well, because it's part of the same problem, the whole system. I mean, who's bringing in our police forces, our law enforcement are part of the problem, but who are behind those? I'm sure he knows who's behind all of that. I'm sure many of these Congress people know because they themselves they've been caught with drugs in their properties, even in the White House with the previous president with Biden and his son. So the problem here is the drugs and all the coping mechanisms that they're throwing is just so that a few benefit financially, whether it's drugs, like video gaming, the alcohol, all of these things. But we're not really addressing the issues that the people in the United States are basically dealing with. Okay,
let me say something. You do feel that the syndicate should be targeted too, don't they?
The syndicate. Which ones?
You know, like the Italian mobs and all that. Should they? I think anyone that is doing drugs should be targeted. Why is he not targeting the syndicate in general? I'm asking you that.
Okay, and before I answer that question, I ask myself, and I ask anyone: were they born? Were these individuals, in the drug business, in the alcohol business, in the video games, were they born just so greedy to make only money and not look at what the damage they're causing to someone else? They were not. I don't think so. But there's things that are happening in people's lives that I don't know. I cannot judge. I'm not God. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, this or that. No, what I am going to say is that people's behaviors and decisions are based on something that I am not in control, that I can only be in control of myself and what I'm doing. But these individuals definitely need to be held accountable. Okay, now I'll go to this point. I don't think that people just think, oh yeah, that's it, I'm gonna go ahead and start selling drugs. I don't think that that's how it happens from when, oh, you're just little and it's like, oh, that's what I'm gonna do for a business. I don't think so. I think what happens is a lot of things that push people, push people, and one of the reasons, poverty, like I mentioned to you, the young ladies and the young people that I have around me, that is like they're in college, they're trying to do something with their lives, but they're literally like pushed to the edge where they financially cannot make it. So individuals have reasons to go into these practices and in these industries. I'm not in control, but I do think that we need to be holding accountable at the very top. Who's behind all this? Who's benefiting financially? Yeah, these banks are also financially benefiting. And why are they not?
I would like to ask you, what we know that the CIA operations, that they have been instrumental in helping to get crack into the community when it first came out. And they helped Frank Lucas. There were government officials that helped Frank Lucas in New York, bring drugs into the community, I think from overseas in an Asian country. And I would like to know, why were they not held accountable by the powers to be? Frank Lucas was a gang member there. I mean, he was a gang leader, in New York, in Harlem. And Bumpy Johnson. Why weren't the people that aided them held accountable? Because they could not have gotten this into the United States without CIA permission. Can you explain that to me?
The same thing. No, the same. You're mentioning. We're talking about these groups that are allowing for these drugs to come into the country. And which are these groups? Do you think that the same African American males who are selling the drugs are the ones that are bringing it? Of course not. You have these Caucasian people who are behind many of these cartels and who just like, you don't see who they are, but they're part of the problem. And part of our problem is all these secret entities. And the same thing that they did in Afghanistan. They would actually take the what is it called, puppy seat, and they would that was drugs, and then they would bring it over here, and literally people in those regions, and even if you go to the mountains of like Colombia, or the indigenous people, they use it for like, okay, this is part of our environment and it's a plan for healing, and yet here we have these individuals profiting. And why are we not being why they're not being held accountable? Because they're part of the same system that is only benefiting those individuals and part of our corrupt government. I mean, the fact that our government is so corrupt to
but you know what, Ms. Tapia, but you are complicit is that the CIA operations have helped them to get drugs into the community in the United States.
Oh, for sure they did. That was their plan. And these individuals, I don't know if they're still alive or not, because you know, when you do get things,
thanks so.
No, yeah. So when you,
I already know that. Okay.
They're dead, right? Or that gentleman that you mentioned.
Forrest Whitaker's playing him right now in something on HBO. He's playing Bumpy Johnson right now. But go ahead. My next question to you is: you are a teacher, and you know what?
Yes.
I would like for you to give me a psychological breakdown of J. Edgar Hoover, even though we're talking about the CIA. And what did you think about him? I'm going to play a video of somebody talking about him.
CIA comes to a lot of people's minds.
Okay.
And boy, it really seems like they were definitely players there. But then the FBI as well, J. Edgar Hoover, this guy was crazy, folks. I mean, this guy was like, he was this imperial person. He was there for a very long time. I think J. Edgar Hoover was a freaking conspiracy.
Okay, so let me get us back to get us back.
The video.
And I don't know why my picture's not showing, but you know what? As we look at Hoover, could you give us a psychological breakdown, because he was just incensed that there would never be a black messiah that would rise again. Okay, he infiltrated many programs. He was just, somebody said he wore popes. Okay, popes are shoes that women wear. Okay, but I don't know. But can you give me a psychological breakdown of J. Edgar Hoover, and why was he so in a panic?
Okay, so one of the things as an educator, you know, when we're preparing ourselves to be with children, you know, and you mentioned that, is the fact that the interactions that happen between humans. And when I get the kids, and when I see grown adults
very
behaving in certain ways.
Okay, go ahead, sister.
Yeah, when I see adults behaving in a certain manner, in a certain way, I ask the question: were they born that way? Definitely not. But is it the environment, or is it do they come with some of these traits based on their origins? I do not know the answer, but I do know that much of the behavior of us adults is rooted in experiences we have had, starting from the moment that we were conceived, and maybe even from our ancestors, and that leads us to respond in certain ways. So much of what has happened to many of these crazy adults, I would say, it's traumas that have never been dealt with, and that they refuse to deal with, especially and I know I say this all the time, in a world ruled by men. Unfortunately, many of our males refuse to address traumas because it's looked at as a weakness, but instead they respond in certain ways of wanting to, basically, I would say, part of control and part of like not connecting to consciousness, to the soul that they are. So I feel that, speaking about the psychology of these characters, it's rooted on dealt things that they will probably die with and not ever address. And I say that because even within my own environment, and the adults around me. There's adults that they're fixed. I mean, literally, they're fixed mindsets and not growth mindsets where they will try it. And unfortunately, many of the people who are fixed mindsets are in those positions of power, and that is very scary at this moment, because if you think about it, we're not here eternally on earth. We're not. We're only here on earth in a journey. And I always, when I come across individuals that are like not agreeing with me, which they don't have to, nobody has to agree with me, but I always reply to them, well, I am just a soul with a borrowed body, because eventually I am going to end up like dust, like them, and they are going to be, and I mean, like, we're all going to end up like pretty much dust, right? But the part that is we like attached to material goods, to certain things, to certain traumas that we refuse, and sometimes it feels more like self-destructive instead of really healing and doing better for ourselves. And it is a very interesting psychological situation that many of us have, as far as we respond out of the traumas, the abuse, and instead of out of the really foundations of good, solid foundations of making reasonable decisions and actions. And so when we talk about those characters, that's what I really think is rooted on undealt stuff, issues, traumas, abuse from even ancestral, from birth, from childhood, from youth, from adulthood, and even, to the point that is like, well, it leads them to think that they can behave in certain manner. And then whatever the society does to either kind of guide that person to say, this is not proper, or yes, this is okay. And, like example, I'm just going to mention an example of a child I had that was like always hitting. And until I understood the environment he was coming from, is that I made connections, and it made a lot of sense to me, his behavior. So, yeah, with that being said, I wanted to wrap it up, because I know you want to say something.
The question, you know what? Great point. My other question is, there was a CIA operation in the United States called MK Ultra. And you know what? I want people to look that up. And it was to distribute drugs and heroin. The CIA did this to control people's minds. I would like to ask you, why would they want to do so destructive to people within the United States of America? And why would they want to control their minds? Can you elaborate on that? Well, first of all, I'm going to play a video and let people see.
Yes, play the video.
Edward Snowden, these cell phone towers make permanent records of our locations and have the ability to tap into our identities at any given point.
The movements of your calls to COINTELPRO.
No, that's wrong.
The counterintelligence.
Edward Snowden, these cell phone towers make permanent records of our locations. And
in the early 1950s, the CIA launched Project MK-Ultra, a covert program aimed at developing mind control techniques. The objective was to explore methods for controlling human behavior, often using unwitting subjects. Researchers administered LSD, hypnosis, and other psychological manipulation.
You know what, Miss Chap, something that I really, really want to know, and I'm fighting to get her back, okay? What I really want to know is, why would the CIA in the United States carry out actions against their own citizens within the United States of America? And I'm pretty sure that the president at that time knew about it, to distribute drugs to control their mind. Why? What type of organization would do this, and why would they do this?
a very diabolical one, not a one that is good for humanity and for our country. And I firmly believe that the CIA is actually Mossad, which actually is Israeli, and their goal is not necessarily to benefit the people in the country of the United States of America, but to benefit the individuals. So their intentions have never been at all to benefit people here, rather to utilize people and to enslave them in a way that they are not even aware of. And that is very scary, and people need to know that. And they've utilized the media, they utilize different types of projects, and people are not even aware of it. And what is very interesting, for example, I just saw the I know about that because I'm very protective of my mind, and then I kind of like think, okay, where is this coming from? Where is that coming from? But it's very interesting even how my communication is manipulated, how it is, because how interesting that when I grab my phone, in certain videos come to me directly when I am in an emotional state of mind. So say, for example, if I'm upset, if I'm tired, I'm like, okay, so I respond to that. However, I've learned to, through practices, a lot of meditation, a lot of self work, basically on my psychology, on my mind, exercising my mind, is that I understand is like, wait a minute, somebody here is trying to do this. And they, of course, have done that. However, why is it that our public does not know about it? Because they're not necessarily at all working for the people here in the United States of America. And I tell you, there's a lot of other things. For example, the 9/11, there was not even, it was so well orchestrated. The best way to pretty much tell the American people this is what's happening, and yet just the way that we produce, for example, in my case, that we produce movie to make people think this is what's happening in the moment, and yet reality is something else. And that is what's been happening since the murder.
You've given me a better question to ask. Are you suggesting that the news media, ABC, CBS, and Fox, and CNN, and MSNBC, they're suppressing this information towards the demise of U.S. citizens?
Of course, they're not only suppressing, but they're part of the problem. They are, and most of them are Zionist run. And so this is the problem, that after they murder, and CIA is behind it, and I'm sure it's going to come out, all the information. I think the leader of the IDF at the time was right there, and that was the organization that invited JFK. So since they murdered him, no precedent of the United States of America has really worked for the people here in the U.S. When Carter tried to do it, inflation. When Nixon tried to do it, the scandal. When somebody tries to put a stop and finally do what is right for the people here, they right away, some scandal, some blackmail, some this or something like that. And that's what this organization has been allowed to do for so many years. And I think it's time that the people start realizing and saying, wait a minute, where is this all coming? First of all, my advice to the people of the world and people in the US is don't point out at someone else, but point at yourself to heal first your abuse, your traumas, your experiences, so that you free yourself and that does not impact you at all. So that's kind of energy that is like, you're bouncing it off completely and it's not going to touch you at all. But many of our human, many people don't actually, they're still functioning out of that even survival, because that's how far these diabolical people, I would say, push humans, especially to the survival point that is like they end up doing things that they're self-destroying themselves. Like I told you, the drugs, the alcohol, the video games, all this mind manipulation, instead of really channeling on themselves and their energy, and really not that way, they don't allow all those energies and all those projects and secret experiments that they have done and that they're still doing. They're still doing them, believe it or not. It's still doing them with subliminals, with different kind of energies, with different types of all the different sorts of things, with drugs. And so when you ask me, it's like, well, hopefully people are gonna start making the connection. For example, even I'm gonna make one connection here. Many of the people in the United States do not know that, the newspaper, I think New York Times, it was published New York Times in 1986. They published, the grandfather of Blinken, Blinken, the former Secretary of State, he died in Kiev, Russia. That's how it's typed right there in the newspaper, Kiev, Russia. So my question is, like, why didn't people make a big fuss about that back then? You see, this is all tied to these secret groups. The Prime Minister of Canada, I'm a proud scientist. It should be ashamed of saying that they're scientists. Let me tell you the evilness of to destroy humanity. And if that's what that man stands for, how shameful. I mean, how horrible. And I'm glad that, he's leaving, but he's probably leaving because he's probably on a tape having some sex with a little boy. And that's probably, he was pushed to do that. But now, instead of him, look at that, instead of him taking that opportunity to heal whatever traumas, because I'm sure, something led him to behave in a certain way. And I'm speculating right here. But instead of speaking out the truth, what do they do? What do these men do? They point the finger at everyone else and not necessarily deal with the real truth of what is happening with our humanity, and in the direction that they've taken. And my suspicion is that the CIA was trying to put in place certain leaders all around the world that would basically, by all means, pretty much destroy humanity in such a way that is like, let's push this distortions of the pronoun stuff and all this distortions about, for me, there's only two body parts, male, female. Okay.
When you finish at that point, then I got other questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in what I perceive is that a lot of these leaders have many dark secrets, and the CIA and these secret groups are behind them, and that it's time for humanity to rise up, stand up and say, no, you're not going to destroy our humanity, because guess what? Because we deserve for our next generations to survive. And with that, I want to finish.
You like me, I'm very talkative, but you know what? And that's a good thing, to be articulate enough to express yourself, to get the message out. And my question to the American people out there, my what I like to address is that the CIA, for the most part, they're not working on the behalf of U.S. citizens. They're doing things, as we have expressed, that they have given people drugs, to control their minds. They have helped gangsters bring drugs from foreign countries and cooperating towards the demise of the nation. And it's a tragedy. And I like for you to, first of all, set this up, that the next video you're going to see, in my opinion, is Eric Snowden. Eric Snowden, for those that do not know, he's the one that was contracted by the NSA, National Security Department. I'm probably saying it wrong. And the thing is, he revealed information that our phones were being tapped. And I'm gonna play this and hope I don't mess up.
No, it's okay.
But I'm trying to get the word.
In the early 1950s, the CIA launched Project MK Ultra, a covert program aimed at developing mind control techniques. The objective was to explore methods for controlling human behavior, often using unwitting subjects. Researchers administered LSD, hypnosis, and other psychological manipulation.
Edward Snowden, these cell phone towers make permanent records of our locations and have the ability to tap into our identities at any given point.
The movements of your phone are the movements of you as a person, and those are often quite uniquely identifying. But what this means is that whenever you're carrying a phone, whenever the phone is turned on, there's a record of your presence at that place that is being made and created by companies.
He goes on to say that all this information used to be temporary, but now these companies have the power to keep this data forever.
They simply collect it all in advance in hopes that one day it will become.
You know what I think? Because of that, I'm going to let
Edward Snowden, these cell phone towers make permanent records of our locations and have the ability to tap into our identities at any given point.
The movements of your phone are the movements of you as a person, and those are often quite uniquely identifying. But what this means is that whenever you're carrying a phone, whenever the phone is turned on, there's a record of your presence at that place that is being made and created by companies.
He goes on to say that all this information used to be temporary, but now these companies have the power to keep this data forever.
They simply collect it all in advance in hopes that one day it will become useful.
So, you know what, Eric Snowden, I would like your assessment of
He's
Eric
a hero.
Snowden. Was he a hero? Is he a villain? Is he a villain? Okay, because he fled the country because a person being prosecuted for telling the American people that your internet emails are being monitored, your telephone, and you know what? Is he an enemy of the state? Or is he a hero? Should he come back to the United States and face the music? Please tell us.
He's a patriot. He's a hero. He is a person who actually spoke up for the people here. Because can you believe it? And when I started the show and I said I'm a victim, because they follow me everywhere I go. And what do? They put the sirens. I am telling you, because I speak the truths. I hear these sirens as soon as I walk out of the building, of any building, of different locations. They know I'm there. What do they play? The sirens to try to terrorize me. I'm not afraid. You know why? Because I've died many times, and I'm a soul with a borrowed body, and I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. He's a hero because he spoke to the American people of what is actually happening. We are being enslaved, and we are being utilized for other people's benefits.
My question to you is, if Eric Snowden signed a disclosure statement saying that whatever he learned about the NSA before he took the job as a contractor, he would not give out that information. Okay, he signed it. Was he wrong?
Well, that's a way for controlling humanity. And I am sorry. Do we want humanity to be destroyed? No, we want humanity to continue to exist. That is what we should aspire to, right? For our next generations to survive and to thrive, not to destroy. So in my opinion, he did the right thing. And many of these people who signed those secretive contracts, they need to start tearing those things apart and saying, forget it. Humanity is at risk right now. Why? Because we have these groups, secret groups, as he said it. They're utilizing our phones without our consent. I have to put a freaking tape on my camera because they're following me. Why? Because I speak the truth. Why? Because they manipulate my communication. Why? Because they want me to behave in a certain way and to say certain things. I am not going to. I am going to speak the truth because it matters for my children. I'm doing it for my kids, so that my kids have a better future, so that my kids are not having to be, so that they are free to express themselves, to be who they're meant to be. And unfortunately, we have in our humanity, in our society, like these individual secret groups, FBI, CIA, Mossad, and in different countries they name them differently. I don't care. It's wrong is wrong, and I am not going to be eternal, nor are they. And I believe what Snowden did is right, because what it has to happen at this point, we're at the point where these leaders are being held pretty much hostage, blackmailed, for their dirty activities, which, instead of hiding behind and hiding, where are the absent clients? Instead of hiding, saying, hey, this happened to me, and yes, this was wrong, what I did, and it should not happen again. Instead of having the courage to really speak.
Let me ask you something. What is your opinion of Cook, who is the president of Apple Computers, and Bill Gates selling information and metadata to the NSA? Would you like to elaborate on that? I want to leave that alone.
Well, the same thing that I find with Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook. They don't have the right. They don't have the right to sell our information. So, by clicking here. This is where I find it. Okay, so you're making the money on me because, I clicked there. Does that means that it's okay for us to go ahead and find out every single action you took in your life, whether it was a bad decision, and just because you have, another way, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. It's in a way, I don't buy Apple products anymore. I'm done with Apple. Again, these secret groups and these racist people who control pretty much our different systems around the world, they don't really care about brown, black people, Asians. They care about money. They care about the distortions. And it's like, wait a minute. Instead of dealing with your traumas that brought you to behave and react in this way, you are still pushing. And that guy, oh my God, that Prime Minister of Canada, I am so disgusted.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Lonnie.
Disgusted.
Hey, walaikum salam.
I'm so disgusted because he probably said, well, assalamu alaikum. Sorry, the other guest. So I'm so disgusted because I'm a proud Zionist. Instead of looking in the opportunity to change things, this he has an opportunity, and yet what is he doing? He's totally advocating for this racist group that has pretty much worked to destroy humanity.
My question to both of you, okay? The Brother Lonnie, assalamu alaikum. The sister gave her salams, and a question to both of you.
Walaikum salam.
Starting with Sister Dahlia, is you're saying they should not give the information out of metadata away to the NSA, but when you joined their platforms, you authorized and gave permission for them to do that. So wouldn't you say that that's at the discretion?
No, I authorize.
At the bottom, when you sign up for Google's, you have to check something.
Okay, I do not. I see the point. The point here again, if without my consent, no, right? But so this is where I would say, how can I utilize? Because many times, like, you can't use that unless you have this account, or unless you have, and you need to communicate. So this is where I stopped using Apple. Because it's like, the other user has to be Apple. They trap you. It's like they trap you, and it's like, why do they think they have the right to trap me into something that I'm not?
Authorization by joining their platform, by checking. It's okay. There's a check mark when you don't have to.
But part of it is the check mark doesn't give them the right to go ahead and manipulate my communication.
All that stuff?
Does not. Okay, wait. Does not give them the right to manipulate my communication. That is my right. I decide, but by that shouldn't happen, and that is what's happening even to me right now. My communication is many times manipulated and blocked. Like shadow ban. I have all these people, all these secret groups, all these different people, all these haters, and it's okay. I'm okay with them following me, but I need our governments who have good intentions for humanity, our good people, our good leaders, to start doing something to change that, because that is not right. I might mark yes to utilize them, to utilize their platform, but not to manipulate my information or actually do as they please, because they're not.
But
I'm not
before
giving
you
them that
check, there is something that says that we have the right to use your information any way we want to. There is something now. And the person does not have to utilize that technology if they feel that way. Do you agree with that or disagree?
Not that I agree or disagree, but like I told you, they trap you. That's why I'm not buying no more Apple products.
Those from Microsoft too. Okay.
Yeah, the same thing with Microsoft. Exactly. So this comes unethical practices of these individuals for me. And I find it very disturbing, because that is the way that they lured many vulnerable people into behaving and doing certain things that are very wrong. So that's what I believe.
You know what? We winding down, and you know what, sister? I want to thank you for coming on Underground Railroad Podcast, and there were people listening. Okay, and if you like this, share it on your platform. And what I'm gonna have her give information, and when she sends me her information, I will put it in your description. You might want to say something in American and Espanol, because I know.
Well, I won't say too much in Spanish, but I do want to say that they can follow me on X, platform X, which is also does not necessarily, I don't get the notifications. Look at how they manipulate my information, I don't get the notifications of certain people that I really care very deeply for. But that's one of the ways that they can follow me at Dalia Tapia, Dalia Tapia. That's one of the platforms or on Facebook, also Dalia Tapia. And but on Facebook, I normally try to screen, and then an X is like, I really don't care, because it's like whoever follows me. But it is very interesting how I'm being constantly shadow banned, because I speak truth, and people don't want to heal. Instead, they want to continue in their distortions, and their pretty much aim to destroy humanity by putting us against each other, utilizing religion, color, skin, all of these different ideas. So it's like, okay, I'm done with all of that. But thank you very much for having me.
In Espanol, nothing.
Oh, en español. Para la gente que habla español, muchas gracias. Le digo a Clifton por invitarme a su programa. I said I'm very thankful to Clifton for inviting me to your show.
And you know what? I've been asking you all these questions. Do you have any? Perhaps there is something I didn't give you the opportunity to say. Perhaps you have some finishing comments that you want to transmit to the worldwide audience.
Yes. What I want to share with everyone out there from the bottom of my heart, is the fact that we are souls with borrowed bodies, and we need to be mindful of what we are leaving behind for the next generations. I respect everyone's beliefs and everyone's ideas. However, when we are at risk of damaging humanity and the next generations, we really, really need to take a look at ourselves and change. And by that, being careful of what you intake, whether it is food, whether it is media, whether it is people that you surround yourselves with, whether it is your mental health. And it is important to maintain that mental health. If you need to take some yoga, some boxing, which I'm taking, to release the stress, all of that, do so. And not be afraid of looking into our own souls and our own traumas and abuse from the birth, from conception all the way to now, or even generational. Not to be afraid, because if we do not deal with that, then we're leaving that to our children, to our kids. And that is not what we want to do, right? I hope that we want to leave a better world. So surround yourselves with positive people that will strive that will support you to strive to be the best person you are. And with that, I want to say thank you one more time for having me on your show.
And you know what? People that are looking at this show, you can use this show for a case study, okay? So you can know what was going on March 8th, 2025 for the people in the future. Hey, we were trying to...
Yes, today's International Women's Day. So, all right, for the women, and let's go ahead, create a better world for everyone, and so that we can have balance. And I know sometimes we disagree, Clifton, because I know you blame a lot on women, and I say let's go ahead and start, healing better, and that will bring better energy.
Let me tell somebody something. See, sometimes she hosts the Underground Railroad, and you know what? And I enjoy sitting back and watching her interview people because I'm more interested in knowing what's going on behind the scenes these days. Not that I don't want to be in front, but it's not no big issue. My ego is like, no, she can't help it. She can't. No, you know what? I'm going to get exactly what Allah wants me to have. Whatever Allah doesn't want me to have, I can't receive it anyway. So you know what? And you have to. The people out there listening, you have to share. And you have to network, and you cannot live in this world by yourself. And I appreciate you. I'm gonna say being a co-host. We on co-host one day, but when I come back down to the studio, I don't even know if I'm gonna come back down to the studio.
Can I share one more thing with the audience?
Yeah.
Can I share one more thing? Okay, and it'll be short. So many times when I come across people who do not agree with me, okay, which is fine, and who are very hateful of someone else, I normally tend to tell them, look, in your next lifetime, most likely you're going to end up being born into that so you can heal and have a better understanding. And so in this lifetime, I honestly think that I am a female, because probably in some other lifetime, I probably did not so good things for females. So I am grateful to be here in this lifetime and to heal and to really address the things that probably should have been dealt with and healed by my previous generations, my parents, my grandparents, my great-grandparents. But I am grateful for that opportunity. And with that, I want to say thank you. And even though we disagree as far as the role of women in this world, I just want to say that women are very much a part of this world, and that today I'm going to get to see a movie that I highly recommend, Rule Breakers, from Afghanistan, women who broke the rules to achieve their goals of in Afghanistan. You have the Taliban, right? And these are men too. These are men who probably were traumatized as children as well, because in order for them to behave in that way, they must have gone through hardship, because in order to behave that way, you have gone through a lot. Anyway, so these young ladies went into a robotic competition and they won. So I'm going to go see Rule Breakers today and on Women's Day. And yeah, I want to encourage all the women and the males to not be afraid to deal with your stuff so that we can create a better world for everyone.
I'm going to say this real quick. You know what? I have benefited from the limited conversation that me and her do have as colleagues, but I have grown from my disagreements in a respectful manner. And even if I didn't agree, it gave me the opportunity to look at things from a different viewpoint. And I respect it. I've learned much from the disagreements that we've had. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Malaikum assalam. Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
And you're looking at the Underground Railroad, and you know what? We come on every Saturday night at 10:30. We come on, do a podcast that comes on 12:30 p.m. in Chicago, and please make a donation to PayPal accounts. I buy a t-shirt below, okay, on my YouTube page. And if you can't do anything, please include me in your prayers and in your salats. in Ramadan Mubarak, and go to mosques like Mosque Al Fatih in Chicago at 47th and Woodlawn, Mosque Al Farouk at 89th in Stony Island, Manyun at 47th in Calium and MCC, and they have a Latino mosque. You know what? Islam is just growing. Thank God they don't tax us on the water so high, because Lord knows we use water to make our ablutions and prayer before we make our prayers. But all praises due to Allah. Assalamu alaikum. If you liked it, share it. If you didn't like it, hey.
The tricks of the CIA agency against USA citizens and the world. This video is about the CIA agency's tricks used against USA citizens.
Great.
They don't know what they know now. I've been in their building with him. Did you listen?
Mm-hmm.
And they,
some people don't know what's in that city.
The National Security Administration. And when I walked in there, it seemed like they got video screens. I mean, from here to 35th Street.
Those street cameras, right?
Those are screens like you watch on a computer.
Right.
All right? They got a room where they listen to conversations all around the country. All right? That's why I can say what I said. But they let me go because he was an important person. And they figured if he was pregnant, it was all right. All right? They made a mistake, but I never forgot that.
Well, wait a minute. Wow.
Anywhere. You came across the video because of an internet algorithm or a mistake. Please don't go anywhere because they have over 1,000 videos. We welcome your constructive criticism and positive feedback. This will positively affect our internet platform and help the platform to grow. So please share, like, and subscribe to our internet platforms. There will be a recommendation for the video in the right or left-hand corner. Press on it. Do not go anywhere. Relax and enjoy a video. Thank you for watching.
Drop. Drop.